Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone. Before we start the session today, we will be sitting down for a little bit of meditation. So let us sit together and practice a bit of meditation. Now let us come to sit comfortably, taking a deep breath in, settling into the present, putting aside all else. Let us start by radiating loving kindness towards the body, the being, the mind. Extending your loving kindness throughout the body to each and every part of the body. May this body be well and happy, free from the stresses, free from anxiety and worry. May the mind and the body be at peace, guiding your attention toward all the other beings, radiating loving kindness, regardless of who these beings might be. All sattvas in this cycle of rebirth and death, samsara, guiding your attention, radiate loving kindness towards all these beings living in the same home, in neighboring homes, all around. Let your entirety focus on this radiation of loving kindness in all directions, north, south, east, west, radiant, radiant, radiant. Gently from metta towards all being, towards the internal and external. Ajate Baitha. Nidukvetva Nirogivitva Suhapatan Vitva Shanta Suede Patvitva. And towards the same Ajata Bahitha, let us look upon the suffering of the present, observing the change that occurred within all these beings, internal, external. Let us look upon with upekka, from metta. Let us look upon the same object with equanimity. Just as one might suffer, one might experience a multitude of different manifestations of lobha, dosa, moha, alobha, adosa, amoha. Just so all beings operate with the same roots. The suffering we experience is a minute portion of the vast suffering that exists all across the universe, the world, country, continent, island, ocean. The same occurs for beings who live on the earth, below the earth, and above the earth. All beings chasing craving, wanting becoming with life that at times manifests good, at times manifests bad. This is the Dhammata. This is nature. This is the way samsara continues, moment to moment, moment to moment. Look upon this niyama, this Dhammata, affecting all being. With upekka, just observe, just observe. The suffering that we experience in a single life is trivial in comparison to the suffering experienced by or through 100 lives. Again and again, constantly, constantly. Bringing one to witness the need for urgency. Do not long for repeated birth, a repeated cycle. Gently, gently. It is through this life, the knowing of this Dhammata, that we gain the ability of planning and working out our exit from the mass of constant oppression. Let us protect this life and nurture it. To bring about the ability within oneself to purify the mind, to seek more enduring bliss. With wisdom, we come to develop Samma Ditti, a worldview supporting my path. Every sight that I see lead to a realization of this Dhammata. May every sound I hear be an opportunity to observe the constant change within the world around us. May every smell that we experience guide us towards the Adinava of getting attached or clashing with objects that we perceive. May every taste of food that we consume be for the nurturing of this body for the practice. May every sampassa lead to the realization that all meetings will end in parting. Every touch, pleasurable or unpleasurable, it will arrive and cease. May the mind be for the working, the cultivating, the observing. From Laukika Kusala to Lokottara Kusala. May my whole life be lived for the cultivation of deeper truth. May my whole life be for the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Good evening, everyone. How wonderful. Now let us come to our sutra. Now, we are continuing with the Veludvareyya Sutta. The Veludvareyya Sutta, we know, or as what we went through over the last session, speaks on the importance of the cultivation of moral virtue. The intrinsic qualities that are observed or cultivated through the observance of the 5 precepts or the 8 precepts or any of the precepts, sila. Through that cultivation, as we go through what that brings, we went over these 5 values. Remember? Self-accountability, life-centeredness, happiness, freedom, truth, and the mind. Right? Now, these qualities, how did we understand these qualities? Would anyone like to share? Then, how did you understand these qualities when you were reading in your own time and reflecting in your own time as well? Dilsri, would you like to say something? Hemamali? පන්තිකට දැන් එකතු වෙන්න.
Yeah,
I
Bante,
unmuted myself, Mante.
Ah.
I will do the best of my ability. So what I understood was that this Veludvara Sutta was told by the Buddha.
We have 5 values. 5 values.
Right.
Self-account.
So the 5 values, they have been elaborated in the Singhala Vada Sutta as well. And they basically talking about the golden rule, which is like underlined this, that to do unto others what you wish them to do unto you. So from that, the self-accountability is that there were those days that there is in the world 2 kinds of views. One is that it's man-centered, and the other one is God-centered. But none of these are this is not what it is, because in Buddhism, it's about life-centeredness, which is about unconditional love. So that we accept ourselves just as we are. And in that acceptance, we see the true reality and accept other people as well. And that, they say, is what because we don't just believe that it's a man-centered thing, because the environment also comes in.
Yeah,
So
Dil, I'm going to just stop you for a moment there, Dil, right?
Right.
Because I want to add something on to a beautiful part that you just said, which was on accepting others just as we accept ourselves. Um, this this accepting others just as we accept ourselves, of course, this is something that we often hear in religious discussion, right? In the depth of Dhamma, me මට මූණවල් පේන්නේ නැහැ. Can I see some of your faces? So, I'm just looking at your names. Let me see some of your faces. Hari, now I'm connecting. Sometimes I wonder to myself, what am I doing staring at a name? Hari, coming back. Now, when we say treating others just as we treating others just as we would treat ourselves, or accepting others just as we accept ourselves, මෙන්න මේ දෙය ලොකු කර්මස්ථානයක්. It's a big karmasthana. This karmasthana here, where do you truly now in this world, as we walk the path in our way to the best of our ability, we come into circumstances where this is challenged, isn't it? Treating others just as we treat ourselves, accepting. Especially අපි කියමු හරීම ලොකු වැරද්දක් කියලා. A huge, let us say something criminal, let us say. නේද? And when we hear about these gruesome stories or whatnot, then because we at this position, we have not done it ourselves. Let us say something like murder. We've not done it ourselves. Maybe we've not come to experience any of our relatives or close friends as such as well, or we have no experience with such thing personally. However, when we hear these things, then it is very easy, isn't it, for the mind to go to a place of judgment over the individual concerned, the perpetrator, right, the criminal. and we experience this. However, we cultivate the mind and we bring ourselves, let us say, to cultivate metta, and then karuna, mudita, and in the end, upekka, leading towards upekka. Upekka. When the truest form of upekka, when you say accepting oneself just as you, accepting others just as you accept oneself, is where one breaks away from the story that we see in the outer layer, the facade, the images, the sounds, the words that we read, and we see the root of it, the Mula Dhammata. The Mula Dhammata is Lobha, Dosa, Moha, or Alobha, Adosa, Amoha. Greed, hatred, delusion, or non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. When one realizes, now this is what one has to first come to. Israma මේකයි කරන්න ඕන. හරි? Israma, you have to see that. Because if the mind is very agile, very sort of, lazying extremes වලට යනවා නම්, right? there you forget this bit because the mind just goes over your head. You forget that bit. So in being committed to the practice in some way, ගිහිල්ලා ධර්ම දේශනාවක් හැව්වත්, even if you just listen to a Dhamma talk, you don't meditate, but you listen to Dhamma talk, or you meditate, you're doing a dana or a pinkama, or whatever it is that you're doing, if you're in the practice, you bring your mind to be aware about the fact that at the end of the day, through reflection or meditation, at the end, it has to come to the bhavanamaya jnana, the meditation, because that is where you truly experience it. You have to see that when we put aside our judgment, when we put aside our views, when we put aside the barriers that differentiate us and turns us into statistics and demographics and all such conventions, what we see are is 6 roots, 3 good, 3 bad, depending on the occasion. The second step after that, is where you see that this lobha, dosa, moha, alobha, adosa, amoha, the 6 roots, that they have their own conditions. That they have their own conditions, hetu, conditions, causes, not one, but many. If you are to say what is a good morning, a good start of the day, and if you are to list down in your head, if the morning ideally goes in such a manner, that's a wonderful day. And now this convention, through this view that you see here, you bring into the fact that this morning, just like the cup of tea or whatever that you list, okkoma causes, you see. So now already, even without any meditation, you see that, oh, I am such a person that if I have these things in the morning, if my 6 to 11 is such, then it's a brilliant morning. Wonderful, right? Now, those are conditions. You have conditions there. ඕකෙ තුල තව conditions තියෙනවා. Through this, you find more conditions, meaning for the body to work when you're sipping, the mind, the chittavitis, that all of that we are learning. Where all of that becomes now 6 or 7 things that you listed in your list of what makes a brilliant morning is multiplied by 1,000-fold other conditions each. Isn't it? If you would think for me to, at this time, to look at you and to verbally orate these sounds, the function of the brain thinking and this flowing, and the mouth, the tongue moving, the sound moving, just as everything else here, the body is calm or subdued because of the focus on the Dhamma, and belief and trust in what I am saying. You see how many conditions are there, everyone. That is that second part. You see the first. To see the cause, you must see the object, isn't it? It is the cause of that object. A prajnapti is a coalition of so many different objects, isn't it? It's a image. It's a hallucination portrayed by the mind through belief and view. So we see this now. if you are to look at walls, because I'm looking at a wall right now behind the computer, if you are to look at a wall now with all the houses that we've been to or with all the walls that you've seen, how many different or the judgments that could arise or the conclusions that we might come to on the design of it or the best colors of it or the textures or whatever, the papers or whatnot, with every sankhara, the mind can go into a network, a depth of different possibilities. So we get lost, we can get lost. We can get lost. When we, for example, I'm going to take it a little bit more deeper to spice things up today. In your meditation, sometimes we start seeing these different shapes. Have you ever seen shapes in your meditation? Rectangles, triangles, quite psychedelic. Like the psychedelic images, those videos that are there on YouTube, you see the colorful Eva. Not so ornate in color, of course, but those shapes, have you seen? Kavadan. Has no one seen? No? May. Okay. Right.
ඒ කාලේ අපි මෙඩිටේට් කරන්න පටන් ගත්ත කාලේ අපි ඉස්තර කියලා තියෙන සයිනස දැකලා තියෙනවා කියලා නිකන් ලයිට් එකක් වගේ then we said we didn't get attached to it ඒ වගේ දැකලා තියෙන ඒ කාලේ දැන් ඉතින් more දැන් ටිකක් advanced
අත්හැරලා now have you seen, for example, let's take another example. I'll go through another way, right? The frequency studies that they do, the frequency studies where they, with the different hertz, how it manipulates the formation of those. You've seen those videos, yes? Now, it's quite interesting, isn't it, when you change it, how the formations, the shapes that it creates. These shapes are seen all across history. These are not new shapes. They are seen in the Mayan history. They are seen in Egyptian. They are seen everywhere. These shapes are not new to the world, right? And when you go into a state of a depth of, let us say, hetu paccaya parigha ek paccaya parigha vitara paccaya parigha vitara innuta, right? When you're at paccaya parigha looking at the cause and effect, right? With upekka, when you develop the upekka onto the upekka, one might start to experience different shapes. These shapes, they arise, interestingly, very similar when you look around to these other shapes that you see now, right? With our studies now. Now, in Vipassana, we would put these shapes into, tell me, if one of you were to have a shape, what do you think I would tell you? Then ඕගොල්ලොත් කර්මට්ටානාචාර්යලා වෙලා නිම්මා with all the Sunday classes, right? You can sort of see where we are going. හිතන්නකෝ, what would I tell? We would, in Vipassana, we would say, this is a sankhara. This is a sankhara, ගණන් ගන්න එපා. Don't take any notice. Continue on your primary object, observing anicca, dukkha, anatta. Then Samanyan api, then Vipassana, when we come down to Vipassana, that is how we would teach to move forward. All right. However, these have a deeper meaning, right? When now we, all of us, we were born as a result of the relationship between our parents, right? We were, at that time, conceived. You were conceived as a result of a rebirth linking process. Patisandhi process. A rebirth process. This occurred through taking either a sign, that means, some sort of karma comes up during the time of death. Let us simplify it because we already know. Sign comes up, and owing to this karma nimitta or gati nimitta, we achieve, or rather we pass, and we come to a rise the very next moment within a suitable place that aligns with the present condition of the patisandhi. So energy. So this energy seizes and arises where it is suitable, meaning which aligns with this energy. With this energy. When that arises, one of the factors that would determine whether you are born there or not is obviously your parents. Your parents, their karma aligned in a way with yours to have you, to be able to conceive you or us. Right? This force happens according to the patthana with kamma pacchaya, vipaka pacchaya. Kamma pacchaya, vipaka pacchaya. That means kamma pacchaya is the kamma that arose, that allowed for a patisandhi process. Vipaka pacchaya, the result condition, is when that karma led to the arising part, the vipaka, the result, the rising of the result. That is vipaka pacchaya, obvious. Karma pacchaya, vipaka pacchaya. Manisha, are you following Manisha? Is everyone else okay? Manisha?
Auntie, I'm following. Thank you.
Wonderful, Manisha. Wonderful. Now, karma pacchaya, vipaka pacchaya. This is, let us say, hitamu, when you speak, the sound vibrates, isn't it? It vibrates. Now, this sound is caught by this mic, which is here, right? And through the mic, the speaker that you have there, it vibrates. And then you catch it. Huh? We are not going there. I just want you to think about this vibration. Vibration. Just like that, those shapes occur, showing the way that your existence vibrates. Vibrations resonates. This moment of through vibrations we exist. Through vibrations we exist. This vibration, we can, I think 10, 15 years ago, we can't say these things with a lot of confidence. Within, let us say, in places where science is considered up there, it's difficult. But now, science has come very, very far. It shows that this physical image in the same, but not as far as Buddhism.
Yes.
Because it shows, because why? Those vibrations that we see in our kammatthana, the frequencies that produce those shapes, our physical structure exists because of vibrations overlapping on each other. Overlapping on each other. In the same way, then balanna, how kamma? Kamma is an energy. Bhavanga is an energy. Bhavanga is supported by what kamma? What kamma? Patisandhi, rebirth kamma. We know it is at this moment, when we go into deep sleep, and if we know that we are born of the three good roots, if we have um, 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 the six sense bases are functioning appropriately, and you are of full form, right? That is a good sign to say that you are, or your vibration is that of a three-rooted energy, consciousness, right? Consciousness. This consciousness energy, the kamma vipaka, is, we know, and we have learned again and again through the Abhidhamma. So many times we've learned this kamma and vipaka is truly all that there is. We make karmas and we experience the results of karmas, isn't it? We make karmas and experience the result of karmas. This karmic energy, in the physical level, the way that the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind perceives the physical world, but this physical world is a result of those karmic energies. A good example is when Venerable Mahakachayana, who was this beautiful arahat, he was very, very beautiful. He was a very handsome monk, right? So he had a lot of appeal, but he was an arahat and one of the main bhikkhus in the Buddha's ministry, isn't it? Venerable Mahakachayana. Venerable Mahakachayana was good at, if I remember correctly, Venerable Mahakachayana was good at explaining the Dhamma in length, isn't it? Was it that? Was it explaining the Dhamma in length? I mean, I remember like as that was his, he would take a small piece of Dhamma and explain it length. But Venerable Mahakachayana, remember the merchant who went past whilst Venerable Mahakachayana and the monks were bathing in a river. This wealthy merchant, seeing the body of Venerable Mahakachayana glisten under the sun, lust arose in his mind towards the Arahat. And the merchant thought to myself, may this person be my wife. What happened? He underwent an immediate sex change. An immediate sex change. Became a woman. How? Powerful karma, powerful, strong karma, change in the way those vibrational structures work. Thus changing the way that this reality here exists. When a karma arises through the Uttuja Rupa, we realize that on my leg, it's perfectly fine. That's all good. All of a sudden, there are lumps and, all of these things start coming up, or rashes or whatnot, right? The vibration changes, the frequency changes. Just as when, let us say, a beautiful child brought up by beautiful parents, once put into the world, experience the brunt of what society has to offer, and the beauty and the innocence of that child, the radiance and the glow diminishes. The external factors affect the vibration of this being. So much so that this beautiful child is now bigger, but is unable to even close their eyes properly and go into their state of bhavanga, because so many sankharas affecting, dukkha, affecting. When something affects, this always make tamara පීඩාව කියන්නේ. Kusala and akusala both are like this. It just affects. It just affects. The arahata, we take offense. We take offense. The arahata sees the dhammata and realizes the good is such a effect. The bad is such a effect. But whilst the good effect goes on to higher planes, the bad effects resonates with the lower vibrations. Hence, our bodies from the moment of conception, it vibrates with the conditions present, molding in you to the look that you have today, the way that you look, your bone structure, the way that your body is, all of that, how strong or the way that your mind is, your brain. And we know now how MRI scans show how certain things relating to anxiety or different psychiatric disorders, we don't see it as disorder because psychologists don't look at MRI scans. But they would sort of think, okay, these are personality stuff. But we see children who are murderous with murderous intentions, or children who have very unusual practices or behaviors. We see that the brain, there's something in the brain, relations between that. But they are very young vibrations, frequencies. But the thing is, now these vibration frequencies, when we put it into what we know, when we put it into our worldview, right? Then, as a doctor, you would say this is this, or this comes as this, or this, and, this chemical leads to this, and that is why this happens, all of that. The person who believes in another faith would explain this in this manner. We put it into whatever worldview that we would choose or be conditioned to see this by, that you will see. But when we walk on this path, we come to see that this come and vipaka moment to moment. This is but a mere sankhara. Arising and ceasing, creating this prolongation that we see. That we see. In observing that, you see the real anatma, the non-self. When we realize, then I will send it on the WhatsApp group. I will send it on a WhatsApp group. These when you have, let us say, when you overlap, may those frequencies, right? You take it on like X-ray sheets, transparent, and you overlap them. If you take the face, you can make different faces with the same 3 frequencies. You can make different faces just by changing the overlaps. Just so, and that when we experience that in the meditation through our practice, as we see the cause and effect How, for example, the hand, I'm sure you have all experiences. The hand touching against a hand when you meditate. This heaviness that you feel. And just so anywhere else in the body, you take it as a hand at first, and then the hand disappears and it becomes little vibrations all over. Like a numbness all over. But with vibrations. These vibrations become more and more apparent the more that you let go and focus. That now there is no hand but a different vibrations or chalana. Where sensations arises and ceases, arises and ceases, arises. You go down into that sensation, you will find that vibration. Because that vibration is created by those causes affecting one another on a niyama, on a law, on a conditionality level. On a conditionality level. So depending on the person who is practicing and the intent of the person, we use these experiences, these insights to further understand and realize that this moment, the arising and the ceasing, this image or rupa or the mind that we do have, that there is no permanent being. There is no permanent being. Even the body, there is no permanent being because the condition of the body changes. Right? The condition of the body changes. The old or the young you might not relate to you, who you are today. You today might not relate to that girl who existed or boy who existed so many years ago. Because why? Entirely, we might see that the experiences that we've seen. But we hold these views in our mind as a standard. That is that worldview that has to be seen through realization of this moment. One is not afraid of good nor bad. Why? One is untouched by them. You have to feel some sort of obligation or you have to be some under it to feel its pressure. But what if you're not under it? What if your life does not run on those levels where you're chasing or your lifestyle is determined by these sensations that you experience? Where you're chasing the sensation, the pleasurable sensation, whether it be the taste or the smell or the sound or the physicality. This occurs, we know, at a very small level, isn't it? Meaning the object, the vanna, hits the eye at Chakku Vinyanam. The vanna enters the eye at Chakku Vinyana, right? At Chakku Vinyana. Chakku Vinyana is the eye consciousness. The eye consciousness is one mind movement. Upatiti Bhanga, one mind with three mind movements. Upatiti Bhanga, arising, processing, ceasing. This arises and ceases. This is one moment. All the rest processes that. So whilst the object is one mind moment, how many other mind moments do you have processing that object? There are 17 mind moments. So one out of how many? 17. One out of 17. 1 out of 17 chittas. Only one is the actual object. The rest of the 16 are mental processes, processing, taking this object. Why? Because karma, vipaka. Karma, vipaka. Continuance. Because it has to continue. Because there are energies that are pushing it to continue. Because there is constant need and want, interest in the continuation in the system. So it is quite difficult for a person to come into this sort of position where he's wholeheartedly wanting to experience this to the most genuine extents of one's heart requires there a lot of conditions. But if the mind is powerful, the mind is the strongest condition. Why? Manopubhangama dhamma mano setta manomaya. The mind is the forerunner of all things. Hence, the Buddha shows the path to say, yes, these conditions are all here. Yes, this is the Dhammata, Nama, Rupa, mind and body, Chitta, Chaitasika, Rupa, Nibbana, the four ultimate realities. And then there is the conventional world, but the mind is the forerunner. Be alert. Learn to observe. See the rising and the ceasing. See the arising and the ceasing. In that seeing, insight occurs. Insight occurs. So when the mind now resonates, vibrates to the frequency of kusala, wholesome, now our whole existence comes to build upon that same energy. However, there are past energies that come. No, past. Now, yes, we are making good energies right now, right? However, the past is also coming in, right? The karma, vipaka is also rising here. It is because the vipaka is arising here that we experience the object in the first place, isn't it? And with this object, I create another energy that will exist in the next moment. Now see, karma, vipaka, karma, vipaka, karma. Continuance. That continuance is based upon this belief that whatever which is, let us say, important to you, let us say whatever, not here right now, but in general, whatever that is going on in your life right now, which you consider is important, which you consider as demanding attention, the need of attention, or something that you have to give attention to, when you observe that mentality, or when you observe that person who is there, you find how caught up we are in it, how this object has grown roots, so much so that I sometimes become a different person because of this object, because of what I believe is important. Become an entirely different person. Because why? The object is affecting this vibration. It's affecting. That is the dukkha. That is the dukkha. Huh? That is the dukkha. That dukkha is, again, I always say for the Sri Lankans, you should never take dukkha, of course, dukkha satcha. Huh? Dukkha satcha is far beyond just suffering. Dukkha satcha is far beyond just physical or mental suffering. That dukkha is a conditional force. It's a conditioning force, dukkha, which is this gashtani. So, for example, if this is a good, if this is something good, there is gashtani. If this is something bad, there is gashtani. If you ask for something and someone says no, that's gashtani. If you ask for something and someone says yes, there is gashtana. Oh, sorry. If you ask for something and someone says yes, there is oppression. When you ask for something and someone says no, there is oppression. But we first think the oppression is only where someone says no. No, the oppression is also there where someone says yes. How? How? How is
Because there's wanting, so there's always that the lobha comes in. So
when we, yes, true, right? However, how do we mold it in to this discussion where we say this the good part? How can the good part oppress is my question. How can the good affect, oppress?
because it changes, it's impermanent. So when it changes,
Because it changes. Because it changes. What does it change?
because that's an existential fact of life. Anicca, dukkha, anatta.
So it's like
You can't get away.
if you take a person who's a smoker, right? A smoker, wanting now smoker, very bad smoker, right? Now wanting to change. There's suffering there. The change onto the good is also oppression because it then makes you, it pushes you onto another mold, right? It is like dough, right? You can take dough and you can make it into different, same dough, you can make it to different things, different shapes, different types of products. You can make it into, but how do you make it into whatever that you do? You oppress it. You oppress it. Constant change. Now, if you had too much of oil this week, butter or whatnot, because you went out a couple of extra times this week, had to go out for a couple of extra times. Now, what do you have to do the next week? You oppress, reduce. If you've not had enough greens this week, what are you going to do the next week? Make sure that what are you oppressing? When you eat the greens, its enzymes go to convert the greens. There will be lesser enzymes for the others. That's what happens now, right? There's a amount of enzymes and those enzymes going into, and then of course, one part, if you eat too much of one thing, now not enough enzyme. Two, now you have different other bubble motions. You see, nothing is free in this world. There is always something that is to be sacrificed. You can have health when you sacrifice those ill behaviors. You can have, let us say, fun when you sacrifice on maybe more urgent or more, let us say, other things that you could do. Maybe your sleep. Whatever. There's always oppression. It is like, these world energies, with these world energies beyond in the world of, let us say, witchcraft, where something like a Oshun, right? These energy people who do sacrifices in order to come into heights of their careers, right? Somewhat of a big discussion at the moment with a lot of exposing that is going on with the underlying evil of places like Hollywood, where people go into a lot of witchcraft in order to neither witchcraft and energies and sacrifices and pedophilia and all of these sort of ancient old practices, right? Old practices. And you find that this energy or this learning or realization of, let us say, that nothing is for free is practiced or sort of seen in different ways throughout cultures, throughout our world. We realizing when you try to manipulate this, the evil that we become, Now, in Asian backgrounds, we know it is very easy for a person to go to, let us say, one of those black magic shamans and, and tell the shaman, I want to kill this person. It is very easy in, in our Asian cultures. It's so common. It's so common. Voodoo. It's so common. But look at the evil that we are welcoming into our lives. Look at the evil that we are welcoming to our life with such ease. With such ease. It is almost as if we are drinking a cup of evil ourselves. Just pouring it in, making that step. The 5 values comes down to that protection that comes through the Dhamma practice for a being who is living in a world that has great potential for good and great potential for evil. Both. The Arahat is unscathed by the good and evil because he understands that both of these occurrences are mere impermanent impediments. Just sankharas, vibrations. Now, any questions, anyone?
But
Ismala,
story about Venerable Mahakachan, I found it very interesting
Mhm.
how the man changes sex.
Yeah.
I was reading about it
Mm.
and I thought even the modern science can go along with it. Because now they say they're in genes, they say there's something called genetic expression. Now, maybe my mother has got a bad history of heart disease. My father has got a bad history. And I was born with genes where I'm sort of vulnerable to get heart disease.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to get heart disease, although I have got strong genes.
Yeah.
But because of my lifestyle,
Mm.
I can change the genetic expression.
Mm.
They have coined the word now. It's a new word called genetic expression.
Mm.
You have the gene, but the gene has to be expressed.
Mm.
With your lifestyle, you can change that expression.
Mm.
So I find, because I read about it recently and I found it really.
It's like the discussion on genome, isn't it? The biome, the microbiome of the body. The microbiome of the body. It's somewhat like that, isn't it? It's like having a rainforest or a whole world within this system itself, just vibrations of causes and conditions. Yes, we can go into, yes, this is this rupa, yanna puluwa. At the end of the day, you will only find another cause into another cause through conditionality. But that vibration is selected by you. Through your lifestyle, through your mind. How many people, I mean, I know people who have had tumors and who've had terminal illnesses, but who are still living through the power of their meditation or metta or whatever it is. Doctors absolutely, cannot believe how such things have happened. the tumors just disappearing with Shraddha or
Auntie,
whatever it is
last
they
Auntie.
do, right? That they do. Any other questions? Oh, Hemamali? Right.
Bante, in other words, it's like Manopubbangama Dhamma, no? Bante.
Man,
Because of the mind is so powerful, you can change, no?
the mind is so powerful.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah. Mm.
Meaning, the mind is the most powerful tool there is. And we know if you even take the planes of existence, we know that the immaterial realm, even during the Mahakappa Vinasa, it is not affected. Remember? The we will come to that in the next chapter of the Abhidhamma Sangraha on the Thursday class. Tomorrow, Viti Mutta chapter. But the immaterial, because there is no materiality to be destroyed. There is no materiality that can come to harm. So the immaterial worlds are not affected by the Loka Vinasa. Right? Now, when it comes to the mind, as the Buddha teaches his practice, the mind can be further cultivated to a state where it is also not attached to the mind. But to do that, we have to come into a need. And that need to see this arises out of realization, understanding. How do we understand? We understand the objects that we understand are derived through the 5 sense doors. So what if we are not concerned or not looking for any of this? Then the world will determine who we are. We will be so deeply rooted in the world, so touched by the world, that every occurrence is going to tiptoe, is going to sort of push us back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. One day you will get sick of it. Absolutely gut sick of it. And that day, you will want to just let go. Just let go. Because everything that you come to love letting go. Not pushing things away, but simply just අපේ සිංහලෙන් කියන නිවෙනවා කියලා. නිවෙනවා. මොනවද ඉංග්‍රීසි වචනේ නිවෙනවා? What is a English word? Hey, I can't hear.
Like fading away, like nibbida, because the passions fade.
Yeah.
So that you're not either clinging or not.
Nivenama, I'm referring it to in a more basic way, where it is just simply where, for example, sometimes we want justice. Sometimes we want justice. Sometimes we just want to prove ourselves, or sometimes we want to nivenama. Etana nivenama. Where you go through a sense of wanting to just enlighten yourself. Your burden, you just want to keep the baggage, take the baggage off.
Like disenchantment,
Disenchantment, yes, disenchantment, to not become so enchanted by this thing that you're chasing after, to take that moment to realize that thing is not going to just go away. Right? That also exists with some conditions. But this enchantment that we have towards all of these objects, or it's not one thing. No, if it's just one thing, it's fine. It's not one thing, is it? It's repeatedly. Sorry?
Eradicating means what?
No, not eradicating. Right? Nivenma කියන එක eradicating නෙමෙයි. Nivenma is just a light becoming a bit calmer. Right? More
becomes subdued.
Yes.
I mean,
So,
So Bhante, really, when you go to see, as Putagnana people at Wordling, now at the moment, different people have different what they like and what they don't like, and what happiness is. So you got to have an understanding of the Dhamma and to be very mindful and to have yoniso manasikara to realize that if we have expectations, we are going to suffer. So that you got to have that frame of mind by regular practice and meditation to be aware that the world outside, you can not stop. Even for the Buddha, there will be the wholesome and the unwholesome. They will always come and challenge you one way or the other. And you have to have that awareness with the right attitude to be able, with right effort, to be able to see that these things are coming and not to attach value to them as this is what I like and this is, and to just let it go only by that and repeatedly like that.
the
And
easier deal, I mean, just going to interject there, the easier way, if we then occur, it works, right? However, if we would add another dimension to it and say, bring in focus into our lives. Focus where then I don't have to think about this and that and this and that and always be sort of nitpicking at myself, right? But focus where I am so passionate and genuinely warm towards this enlightenment, this quenching of fire. I just want to quench the fire.
yes.
I just want to quench the fire. So let me quench. So in all of my dealings, I don't want to create a fire in another person as well. But if I am to deal with fire, I know better that a fire and a fire only creates a bigger fire. You put fire out with a suitable opposite, isn't it? Because the nitpicking, because when we do that nitpicking, when we are so alert about everything you're doing right now, which of course you should be with the present moment. But if your focus is entirely to become a perfectionist of the moment, that's a horrible thing, isn't it? It sounds horrible even if you are to read it somewhere. Right? Like bad, I mean, by overstated advertising. Perfectionism over this very moment. Again, very moment. You're focusing on the moment to perfect it, to get the best outcome. And for me to get this best outcome, this needs to be right. Now I start fighting. Now to get those conditions to suitable this condition. ඒක තමයි ඉතින් අපි ඔක්කොමලා කරන්නේ. Everyone. We all do this. When we are working on this, perfecting this moment. But when we are true, honest, genuine towards, I want to have peace in my life. I want to have this resilience, or I want to be enlightened, where I am untouched by the good or the bad, but I will be with it in that moment, very much with it. But how? Because I know this Dhammata I can't escape. As long as there is a body, there will be inflictions, isn't it? You can stub your toe somewhere, you can taste food that is too spicy, or or something that you don't like. Anything and everything could happen. Because why? There's a body that can be oppressed. Just like this computer screen in front of me or the wall itself can be oppressed as well. Why? Because they exist. Because as a computer screen, I can poke it or take it, pick it up and throw it. Why can I do it? Because there is physical entity that can be oppressed. When that physicality exists, there will be oppression, and that is not there's nothing to be surprised about. But we observe that with upekka, equanimity, so that we are made through observing sati. Observe.
Bhante, that's why you say that, finally you have to accept it that this is the way it is. So when you're very grounded to that, without trying to push away pain or anything, just be with it. And then you realize, and when you do it, that after some time, you can just not react, but be with it. It does disappear. So in that whole process, also the realization of anicca and dukkha also comes in. So the more you do that,
Absolutely.
yeah, that is the way forward.
That moment, I like to look at this. Yes, still, that is absolutely true. But for me, I like to put a couple more protections just to be sure. Right? Just to be sure. So a few more security layers, right? There comes my faith in the genuine truth of the Dhamma and the meditation experience. So, because I have experienced it and I am fully convinced of its efficacy, there is no one on this planet who could tell me otherwise. No one is going to be telling me meditation is not working. No one. Why? Because I've seen it myself. Just as for you. That is a protection. The Buddha, the Dhamma, Dhamma, that's Dhamma. The Buddha is this figure of the life of the Buddha and what we know and through the teachings. So mampasati, tamba dhammam pasati, tamba dhammam pasati, so mampasati. If you see the Dhamma, you see me. The Buddha says, if you see me, you see the Dhamma. There is no difference. And the Buddha is this object of respect and true, let us say, like a father, like a guide, who we can always respect. Why? Because of the qualities of enlightenment. Because he has been able to get rid of that greed, hatred, delusion, attain Nibbana, and become a Samma Sambuddha, a Buddha. Then we have the Sangha. Now, when you live or when you are in close association to the Sangha, your life will have to change. If you are in relation, if you're working very closely, let us say, with very closely with Buddhist monks and let us say Aranyas and that sort of, true practice, where kilesha, hindrances are not tolerated, but they're also not put down. They're not tolerated, but you are also not being judged for it and put down and stamped down and kept down and buried 6 feet under the ground because of it. Because why? The Buddha says, this sasana, my sasana, are for those who are defiled, not for those who are pure. Because the pure have already done what they have to do. The Buddha says, my sasana is for the ones who are defiled. That is for whom I preach. That is for whom my teachings are for. So when we see the hindrance of a person, of course, the Buddha says, then Sanghata Bādhāvak venavanang, if this person is becoming an impediment to the practice of the people, of course. However, the Buddha does not just chase away. He tries, he sends his retinue, the Moggallana, as the mother of the Sangha. So usually Sariputta first. Sariputta Maharatan Vahanse, Sariputta Thero goes first. Venerable Sariputta goes first as the father of the Sangha. He's more to the point. He's more to the point. But so he does not do the hand holding, right? But he teaches the path. Venerable Moggallana he sends afterwards to do the hand holding, the hair combing, to do the caring, the loving, the guiding. And the Buddha had a whole retinue like that. මටත් ඉන්න ඔය කට්ටිය. You go and speak to her, get her back, calm her down. එහෙම ඉන්න ඕනේ අපේ ජීවිතේ ඒක තමයි. That is how we protect. So when you're living, I know as a fact, when, let us say, the devotees of PAOK, who are very, very closely associated, coming there and working with them and doing all of that, their whole lives, they are not concerned. They can be multi-millionaires, but they are not concerned about building their houses far more up because our focus එක තියෙන්නේ කොහොමරි the focus exists in them. I want to attain somehow through this කියන එක. With our lifestyles that we have here, right? We do that through the coming down or through our meditation, through whatever dhanas that we can do, all of that. Very good. However, it has to also be in this very present moment because understanding arises over the objects that are taken. If you take the object through the 5 sense doors in a wrong manner, it's going to translate back not as understanding, but as a detriment to peace. Detriment to peace. Moment to moment, with focus upon enlightenment, nivima taka. We endure, we go through moment to moment with the goal of Nibbana, quenching this fire. Quenching this fire. I have no need to further fuel this fire with wood and coconut husks and papers. I am not interested. Why? Now I want to quench this fire. The real wood and all of that, everyone, that is also in the mind. The clinging. The things that you consider important. The things that you consider important and dwell right in emotionally. When your main goal is Nibbana, then everything else has to change, no? The way that you would pick up the phone and talk to a person. When you hear a bit of gossip, how you would relate that, take that, how you would respond to that. All of that, because if you're genuinely wanting to get this done, you can't be failing every moment you pick up the phone. Or you go out or you meet your friends. No. The easiest way is to have a good focus and focus on nurturing that. Through that nurturing, everything else will start to, when there is a big tree, the roots of the tree that are below surface, obviously, connects with the roots of the other trees under the ground. And they communicate when there are infections, insects, all of these dangers to their world, you see, they communicate through the roots and inform for the protective mechanisms. When one tree does not have enough nutrients, the other trees gives it nutrients. So keeping a healthy, robust, this sort of Mother Earth, this connected and nurturing, in such a way we must nurture one another, everyone. As long up onto your on to your final days, we will be meeting. So whilst up until your final days, we will be meeting. Whatever changes that will happen, we will be meeting. And we must, in that meeting, we must meet well in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And use every occasion that we possibly can to create a sense of urgency in a suitable manner in our dealings with our Kalyana Mitras, so that we all, just like a forest, supporting one another silently, we support one another, all through our energies, through our network of vibrations. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. අද හාමුදුරන්ට මොනවා වෙලාද මන්ද නේද?
And so, Swaminatha, when we listen, Swaminatha, to you now at the present moment, the value of the present moment we can understand. So it when something arises, solution also there, no the one. No? If
The
you are
solution
clever enough,
is absolutely there.
at the present moment. No?
That oh, Sujata.
මම ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහන්නද ආදුරනේ?
Oh,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Is it, I mean, may be true that every human being, if you fulfill all the paramis, is potential to be a Buddha?
Well, ma'am, I mean, paramis you can fulfill to become a Buddha or a silent Buddha or a Arahat, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, now, in often, whilst we know about the perfections, the 10 perfections, Dana, Sila, Virya, effort, all of that, the 10 perfections, the 10 perfections are being perfected right now, but are being perfected right now as we act in or with the aim of enlightenment in mind. Remember, there's a caveat. There's a caveat there. There's a caveat. It's not just the caveat is, it's not just the doing of wholesome. No. It is far more. It is in going through every arising and ceasing or every object with the spirit of our goal, enlightenment, peace.
Yeah.
So in our interaction, if someone needs to say something, or react in a certain way, the goal should inspire and instill a lack, or let us say a non-reaction, because your goal is not to play that person's game. Your goal is something else. So in that, mata langadi, something actually recently happened to me, right? I'll tell you what. So I had this this property, right? This property, and in Sri Lanka, right? It's for me, it's a funny story, although I'm the one who is disadvantaged. I'll tell you the story. This property in Sri Lanka, and a monk came to me and he said that he has a devotee from Korea who wants to build this hospital, monk hospital, and whether he could have a plot. I said, go ahead, So he asked for a certain amount, and he measured, it's a large plot of land. He measured twice of what he asked. And on the day that he measured, I said, you can, measure it yourself, measure the plot that you want, let me know, and I will sign. Get the deed ready and I will sign. So he did that, but on the day of the signing, it was not the size that he wanted, double. I was like, it's fine. So I gave it to the hospital, right? So now, so recently, so it's been about 3-4 years, right? I was browsing through the internet and I saw this news where this opening of this hospital, right?
Yeah.
Opening of the hospital. And what the monk has done, right? What the monk, he was asking me for the other plot of land, but because that other plot was such a nice plot, I wanted to give it to a forest monk to build a kuti. So my plan for that plot was to give it to a forest monk. I had already given it, but then he went into the forest, so he didn't want this one. And so it was there. And so this hospital people were asking, but I felt that they were a little bit greedy. So I didn't feel like giving it, right? To be honest, I didn't feel like giving it because it seemed a bit greedy, right? And they were quite pushing because they would call my other monk friends, get them to call me, all of these things, nonsense. So I thought it was a bit too greedy, right? And recently, so I'm browsing and then I find they have built the hospital over the whole plot. Right? They built the hospital over the whole plot. Now I don't know how to react. Because I'm seeing this. It's quite funny as well because my other monk friends had gone to the opening and they gave me a call afterwards and they they were telling me and it was so unbelievable. But in my mind, right? In my mind, it's not a sort of cheap plot of land, right? But in my mind, because that is not my aim or goal or any of that sort, kisima anitheka. Also, now I'm thinking, okay, should I punish him? Should I, punish him? Of course, I sent him an email. Should I punish him in a way that, I complain or, do something, tell the police or, do I allow injustice to happen? Right? Should I allow injustice to happen? And I'm still debating, but my essence, my spirit says, I'm not bothered. At the end of the day, it's a hospital, right? And I'm just not bothered because that is not my goal.
Yeah. That's a donation, Bante. You donated it.
I donated a small portion. I donated a small portion, but now in my mind it's a donation. It's a donation, but definitely I'm going to let him know, but that he should not repeat such things. But in my mind it's a donation because for me, all of these material stuff, they come when you want, when you need it. It arises. You just need to be ready for it. It will arise. And all of this wealth does not travel, wealth moves and all of it. But the thing is, our goal is not wealth because I am not fazed by it, because I am far more deeply touched by the essence of Nibbana. That no other pleasure, especially, however beautiful and all of expensive these things are, it is so trivial in comparison to what I would have to sacrifice in order to go behind that. No, I am not going to sacrifice my peace for that.
And
Bante?
also, Bante, one thing is that because it's for a monk's hospital, you can at least realize that monks will benefit who are sick. The monk who did it didn't do a correct thing, but you can make it into a much more kusala idea because it is for the welfare of the Sangha.
මට ඇත්තටම ඩිල් එච්චරවත් හිතන්න ඕනේ නැහැ.
Oh.
I didn't even think so much. For me, I'm happy that they're doing, and I'm very happy if there are a lot of monks, and I think monks' parents also. So I'm very happy that they're able to sort of establish that. But I'm not feeling anything.
Bante,
Great, Bante.
Bante, can I say
But
something?
that is only because
The goal is Nibbana.
And I've tasted a bit of it, just as all of you have in your own ways also tasted that peace. And now, you know, for a lot of you who are coming to mature in your years, this is the time that we shed.
Drop everything.
And
Bhante, can I say?
experience that, allow that experience of peace to occur. Yes, Devika.
May I say something, Bhante? It's true. You are not bothered about it, but what I feel is just, I know you have let go of everything, but I think you should just let them know that you understand what they did. That's all. I know what you have done, but you must make them understand that only. I know you have.
No, I will definitely write, let them know, right?
Yes.
But all I'm, you know, but again, motivation for all of us, you know, to connect with that deeper truth there, everyone. And I'm going to leave you with that today. It was a lovely session. Thank you for sharing this time with me.
Bhante, just one thing, Bhante, these moments you're describing, are these the moments that have been described now in the West? They're the breakthrough moments, aha moments. And they're also now being called the breakthrough moments. I was at a session today and they called them the breakthrough moments. When you, without assigning that it is another person or in the environment and that something is not wholesome or you don't like, but you just wait in it, and then suddenly you realize it's not important because the innermost your chittas and your thoughts and things is the most important thing. So you just sustain and wait, and then they just fall away. Sadhu, sadhu, thank you.
Sadhu to all.
Thank you, Bhante.
Sadhu.